The Galactic Council chamber fell silent when Ambassador Xerix showed the images on the large screen. The pictures came from a small planet called Earth, located in a quiet corner of the galaxy. Every alien in the room stared with wide eyes and open mouths. "This cannot be real," said Counselor Ven, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. "No intelligent species could survive on such a world." The images showed terrible things: huge waves of water crashing against land, mountains that exploded with fire and melted rock, storms that spun in great circles and destroyed everything in their path. The ground itself shook and split apart. Ice covered half the planet for parts of its cycle around the sun. "I assure you, Counselor, these images are genuine," Ambassador Xerix said. His gray body trembled slightly as he spoke. "The humans call their world a Class 4 environment. We call it something else. We call it a Deathworld." A gasp went through the chamber. The word Deathworld was known to all species in the galaxy. It meant a planet so dangerous that no one should ever try to live there. Most intelligent species came from calm worlds with steady weather and gentle conditions. That was normal. That was expected. "And you say intelligent life evolved there?" asked another counselor, a small creature covered in soft white fur. "Not just evolved," Xerix replied. "They thrived. They spread across every part of their planet. They live in the frozen wastes. They live in the burning deserts. They live on mountains so high the air becomes thin. They even live on floating platforms in the middle of their massive oceans." The council members looked at each other in confusion and fear. This was not how things were supposed to work. Intelligent species needed protection from their environments. They needed to find safe places and stay there. They did not spread everywhere like some kind of unstoppable force. "What do these humans want?" Counselor Ven asked carefully. "They want to join the Galactic Council," Xerix said. "They have discovered faster-than-light travel. They meet all the requirements for membership. But I wanted to show you this information first. I wanted you to understand what we are dealing with." The chamber erupted in nervous whispers. Everyone had questions. Everyone had concerns. But before they could discuss further, the great doors at the end of the hall opened. A human walked in. She was smaller than most of the aliens in the room. Her skin was a warm brown color, and her black hair was tied back from her face. She wore a simple gray uniform with a patch on her shoulder that showed a blue and green planet, Earth. "My name is Captain Sarah Chen," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I represent the United Human Coalition. I am here to formally request membership in the Galactic Council." Counselor Ven stepped forward, studying the human with obvious curiosity. "Captain Chen, we have been reviewing information about your homeworld. We have concerns." Sarah smiled. It was a strange expression that showed her teeth. Several aliens stepped back in alarm. Showing teeth was a threat display for many species. "I apologize," Sarah said quickly, noticing their reaction. "Among humans, this expression means we are happy or friendly. I forgot that it might seem strange to you." "Your world," Ven continued, "appears to be extremely hostile to life. How did your species survive there?" Sarah thought for a moment before answering. "We adapted," she said simply. "When the cold came, we learned to make fire and warm clothing. When food was hard to find, we learned to grow plants and raise animals. When diseases killed many of us, we learned to make medicines. Every problem our world gave us, we found a way to solve." "But the stress," said the white-furred counselor, "the constant danger, how did you not simply give up?" Sarah's expression changed to something the aliens could not read. "Humans do not give up," she said. "It is not in our nature. When things are hard, we work harder. When we fall down, we get back up. When we face impossible odds, we find a way to win anyway. Our world tried to kill us for millions of years. It only made us stronger." The council members were silent. They did not know how to respond to such words. In their experience, species avoided danger. They found safe places and stayed there. They did not fight against their entire planet and win. "We would like to show you something," Sarah said. "With your permission, I would like to bring in some items from my ship." Counselor Venn nodded slowly. "You may proceed." Sarah spoke into a small device on her wrist. A few minutes later, several more humans entered the chamber carrying various objects. They set up a small display in the center of the room. "This," Sarah said, holding up a thick piece of clothing, "is what we call a winter coat. It keeps our bodies warm in temperatures that would kill most species in minutes. We made the first versions of this thousands of years ago." She picked up another object. "This is called a water purifier. It takes dirty or poisonous water and makes it safe to drink. We developed these because clean water was often hard to find on our world." Object after object, Sarah showed the council how humans had invented tools to survive their dangerous planet. Shelters that could withstand terrible storms, medicines that cured deadly diseases, machines that could travel across any terrain, suits that let humans survive underwater or in the empty vacuum of space. "You see," Sarah explained, "we did not just survive our world, we conquered it. And then we looked up at the stars and decided to conquer those too." "Conquer?" Venn asked, alarm in his voice. "Poor choice of words," Sarah said quickly. "I mean explore, understand, make our own. We do not wish to harm anyone, we simply wish to expand, to learn, to grow. It is what humans do." The council took a break to discuss what they had seen and heard. During this time, Sarah walked around the chamber, looking at the art on the walls and the strange plants in the corners. Several aliens watched her nervously, but she paid them no attention. Ambassador Xerix approached her carefully. "Captain Chen, may I ask you something?" "Of course," Sarah replied. "Are you not afraid? Being here alone, surrounded by species you do not know, in a place far from your home?" Sarah laughed, another expression that startled the nearby aliens. "Ambassador, I grew up on Earth. I have survived earthquakes, hurricanes, and a wildfire that nearly destroyed my hometown. I have swum in oceans filled with creatures that could eat me whole. I have climbed mountains where one wrong step meant death. This," she gestured around the beautiful, climate-controlled chamber, "this is the safest place I have ever been." Xerix stared at her for a long moment. "I believe," he said slowly, "that the galaxy is about to change in ways we cannot imagine." Sarah smiled again, showing her teeth. "Ambassador, you have no idea." The council reconvened. Counselor Venn stood at his podium and looked down at the human captain. Around him, representatives from 100 different species waited for his words. "We have discussed your request," Venn said. "We have many concerns about your species. You come from a world of death. You have clearly developed aggressive survival instincts. Some among us fear what you might do with access to galactic technology and resources." Sarah stood straight and still, waiting. "However," Venn continued, "we also recognize that your species has achieved something remarkable. You have survived conditions that should have been impossible. You have developed solutions to problems we have never faced. You bring something new to the galaxy." He paused, looking at his fellow counselors. Many of them nodded slowly. "The Galactic Council has decided to grant humanity provisional membership. You will have access to our trade networks and diplomatic channels. You will be allowed to establish colonies on unclaimed worlds. In return, you will share your knowledge with us and follow our laws." Sarah bowed her head in respect. "The United Human Coalition accepts these terms. We look forward to working with all the species of the galaxy." As she spoke these words, Sarah felt a wave of emotion. Humans had dreamed of this moment for generations. They had looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now they knew the answer, and they had taken their first step into a much larger universe. But Sarah also knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy did not yet understand what humans truly were. They did not know what a species forged in the fires of a Deathworld could really accomplish. They would learn. In time, they would all learn. 3 years passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. In that time, humans spread faster than anyone had expected. They established colonies on 12 different worlds. They opened trade relationships with over 40 species. Human ships became a common sight in busy spaceports across the galaxy. And then the reports started coming in. Counselor Venn read the latest one with growing amazement. It came from a planet called Xerxes 7, a world that the Council had designated as uninhabitable centuries ago. The atmosphere was thin. The temperature ranged from freezing cold to burning hot depending on which side faced the sun. Toxic metals filled the soil. No species had ever tried to live there. No species except humans. According to the report, a group of 200 humans had established a permanent settlement on Xerxes 7. They had built pressurized domes to hold breathable air. They had developed special suits to work outside. They had found ways to extract clean water from the poisoned ground. They were not just surviving. They were growing food, building structures, and expanding their colony. "This is impossible," Venn muttered to himself. "I'm afraid it is very possible," said a voice from his doorway. Ambassador Xerix walked in, carrying another stack of reports. And Xerxes 7 is not the only example. He handed the reports to Venn. The counselor read through them with growing disbelief. Humans had colonized a moon with crushing gravity 3 times higher than Earth normal. They had built underwater cities on a world covered entirely by ocean. They had established mining operations inside active volcanoes on a planet of fire. They had created floating habitats in the atmosphere of a gas giant. How, Venn asked, how do they do these things? I asked Captain Chen the same question, Xerix replied. Do you know what she told me? She said that compared to Earth, most of these places are actually quite manageable. At least they are consistent. Earth's greatest danger was always its unpredictability. Here, they know exactly what challenges they face. They say it makes planning easier. Venn set down the reports and rubbed his eyes with 2 of his 4 hands. The other council members are becoming concerned. Some are calling for restrictions on human expansion. That would be unwise, Xerix said carefully. Humans do not respond well to being told they cannot do something. It only makes them more determined to do it. Then what do you suggest? Before Xerix could answer, an alarm began to sound throughout the council building. Both aliens rushed to the communication center, where screens showed an emergency broadcast. Attention all council members, the announcement said. A Class 5 emergency has been declared in the Kelloran system. The colony on Kelloran Prime is under threat from massive seismic activity. Evacuation is impossible. All ships in the area are ordered to stand by for rescue operations when the event concludes. Venn felt his heart sink. He knew what this meant. Kelloran Prime was home to 3 million Kelloran, a peaceful species known for their beautiful art and gentle nature. A Class 5 seismic event would destroy most of their cities. Even with immediate rescue efforts, the death toll would be enormous. Is there nothing we can do? He asked the communication officer. The Kelloran have no underground shelters, the officer replied. Their world has been stable for millions of years. They never needed them, and there is no time to evacuate. The event will begin in less than 2 hours. Venn closed his eyes in grief. 3 million lives, lost because of random planetary activity. It was a tragedy that happened somewhere in the galaxy every few decades. There was never anything anyone could do. Wait, Xerix said suddenly. Look. On the screen, a new signal appeared. It came from a human ship that had just entered the Kelloran system. The ship was not a military vessel or even a standard transport. It was a massive cargo hauler, the kind humans used to move supplies between their colonies. This is Captain Marcus Webb of the human vessel Endurance, a voice said over the communication channel. "We received your distress call. We are moving to assist." The communication officer looked confused. "Human vessel, please clarify. How do you intend to assist? Evacuation is impossible." "We're not here to evacuate," Captain Webb replied. "We're here to help the Kellorans survive in place. We're carrying emergency shelter equipment, seismic stabilizers, and enough supplies for a year. We've dealt with earthquakes before. We know what to do." Ven grabbed the communication device. "Captain Webb, this is Counselor Ven of the Galactic Council. The Kelloran have no experience with this kind of disaster. They will not know how to use your equipment." "Then we'll teach them," Webb said simply. "We're also carrying 300 human volunteers, engineers, doctors, disaster response specialists. We train for situations like this back home. It's what we do." The communication fell silent as everyone in the room processed what they were hearing. Humans were going to try to save the Kelloran colony, not by running away from the disaster, but by facing it head-on. "You cannot be serious," Ven said. "The seismic event will be catastrophic. You could all be killed." "Counselor, I appreciate your concern," Captain Webb replied. "But where I come from, we have a saying. You don't abandon people just because things get dangerous. Now, if you'll excuse me, we have work to do. Endurance out." The channel closed. On the screen, they could see the human ship moving toward Kelloran Prime at maximum speed. Within minutes, it had entered orbit and begun launching smaller craft toward the surface. Ven watched in amazement as the humans went to work. They moved with incredible speed and coordination, as if they had practiced for this exact situation hundreds of times, which, he realized, they probably had. The smaller craft landed near the largest Kelloran city. Humans poured out, carrying equipment and supplies. They immediately began setting up large structures that Ven did not recognize. Some kind of shelter, perhaps. Local Kelloran gathered around the humans, their large eyes wide with fear and confusion. But the humans did not seem bothered by their alien appearance. They began communicating through translation devices, explaining what was about to happen and what the Kelloran needed to do. "Move to the center of the city," one human was saying. "Stay away from tall buildings. We're setting up reinforced shelters. Get inside and stay there until the shaking stops." The Kelloran listened. They were a trusting species, and the humans spoke with calm authority. Within an hour, most of the city's population had gathered in the open areas where the humans had set up their equipment. And then the earthquake began. Even on the screens in the Council Communication Center, the destruction was terrible to watch. Buildings collapsed. Roads split apart. Fires erupted throughout the city. The entire planet seemed to be tearing itself apart. But the humans did not run. They stayed at their posts, operating their stabilizing equipment, herding frightened Kelloran into the shelters, pulling injured people from the rubble. Several times, Ven saw humans put themselves in direct danger to save Kelloran lives. The seismic event lasted for 3 hours. When it finally stopped, the city lay in ruins. But the shelters had held. Inside them, over 2 million Kelloran had survived. The humans immediately began rescue operations, searching through the rubble for survivors. They worked through the night and into the next day, stopping only to drink water and eat quick meals. Their dedication was unlike anything Ven had ever seen. Final reports came in over the following week. Thanks to the human intervention, casualties on Kelloran Prime had been reduced by over 90%. What should have been the worst disaster in Kelloran history had become a story of survival and hope. Captain Sarah Chen arrived at the council chamber 2 days later. She had come directly from Kelloran Prime, where she had been coordinating the relief efforts. She looked tired but determined. "Counselor Ven," she said, "I understand some council members have concerns about human expansion. I am here to discuss those concerns." Ven looked at her differently than he had 3 years ago. He had learned much about humans since then, but nothing had taught him more than watching them respond to the Kelloran disaster. "Captain Chen," he said slowly, "I believe those concerns may need to be reconsidered." The news of the Kelloran rescue spread across the galaxy like fire. Every species heard the story of how humans had rushed toward danger instead of away from it, how they had saved millions of lives through sheer determination and skill, how they had refused to accept that nothing could be done. Some species were impressed, others were frightened, a few were both. Counselor Ven called a special session of the Galactic Council to discuss the implications. Representatives from over 100 worlds gathered in the Great Chamber. This time, there were more humans present. Captain Chen sat in the human delegation area along with several other officials. "We are here to discuss the human response to the Kelloran crisis," Ven began. "Many questions have been raised. Some praise the humans for their actions. Others worry about what their capabilities mean for galactic security." A tall, thin alien with scales covering its body stood up. Ambassador Kreth of the Vorn Collective had been one of the loudest voices calling for restrictions on humanity. "The Kelloran rescue was impressive," Kreth admitted, "but it also revealed something troubling. The humans possess disaster response capabilities far beyond any other species. They have equipment and training for situations that we considered hopeless. What does this mean for the balance of power in the galaxy?" Sarah Chen stood to respond. "Ambassador Kreth, I understand your concern, but I want to be clear about something. The equipment and training we used on Kelloran Prime were developed to help people, not to harm them. We created these capabilities because our homeworld forced us to, not because we wanted to threaten anyone." "And yet," Kreth replied, "the same capabilities that save lives in a disaster could be used for military purposes. Your species clearly has advantages that others do not. How can we trust that you will not use these advantages against us?" The chamber fell silent. This was the real fear that many species felt but few had dared to speak aloud. Humans were different. They came from a world of constant danger. They had evolved to fight, to survive, to overcome any obstacle. What would stop them from using these traits to dominate the galaxy? Sarah took a deep breath. "Ambassador, may I tell you a story?" Kreth nodded slowly. 200 years ago on Earth there was a great war. Many countries fought against each other. Millions of people died. Cities were destroyed. It was the worst conflict in our history. The aliens listened carefully. They knew that humans had been a divided species before their space expansion, but few knew the details of their violent past. "When the war ended," Sarah continued, "something remarkable happened. The winning countries did not crush their enemies. They did not take revenge. Instead, they helped rebuild the nations they had just defeated. They sent food, supplies, and workers to their former enemies. They helped them create new governments and new economies." "Why would they do this?" asked another counselor, genuinely confused. "Because they understood something important," Sarah said. "Destroying your enemy might feel satisfying, but it does not make you safe. It only creates more enemies in the future. The only way to achieve lasting peace is to help others succeed, to make them your partners instead of your victims." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of species after species. "This is what we learned from our violent history. This is the wisdom that we bring to the galaxy. We are strong, yes. We are capable of terrible things, but we have chosen to use our strength to help, not to hurt. We have chosen to build, not to destroy." Kreth was silent for a moment. "Pretty words," he said finally, "but how can we be certain you will keep this promise? History is full of species that claimed peaceful intentions and then turned aggressive." "You cannot be certain," Sarah admitted. "Just as we cannot be certain that other species will not turn against us. Trust is always a risk, but consider this. In the 3 years since we joined the Galactic Council, what have humans done? We have established colonies on worlds that no other species wanted. We have rescued millions of Kelloran from certain death. We have shared our technology freely with anyone who asked." She paused, letting her words sink in. "We have done nothing aggressive. We have threatened no one. We have kept every promise we made. At some point, Ambassador, our actions must speak louder than your fears." The debate continued for hours. Many species spoke, some supporting the humans and others expressing caution. But slowly, the mood in the chamber began to shift. The Kelloran representative, a gentle being named Vass, stood to speak. His voice was soft but clear. "My people owe our lives to the humans," Vass said. "When our world tried to kill us, they came to help. They did not ask for payment. They did not demand anything in return. They simply helped because they could and because they chose to." He turned to face the human delegation. "On Kelloran Prime, we have a tradition. When someone saves your life, you owe them a life debt. This debt can only be repaid by saving their life in return or by serving them faithfully for a lifetime." Vass bowed deeply toward Sarah Chen. "The Kelloran people declare a life debt to humanity. We will stand with you, support you, and defend you for as long as our species exists. This is our promise." The chamber fell silent at this extraordinary declaration. A life debt was the most sacred commitment a Kelloran could make. For the entire species to declare, one was unprecedented. Other representatives began to speak. The small, furry Makori offered to share their advanced medical technology with human researchers. The aquatic delphine invited humans to establish underwater colonies on their ocean world. The insectid Hrath proposed a joint military training program to share defensive techniques. One by one, species that had been suspicious of humans began to offer partnerships and alliances. The fear was not gone entirely, but it was being replaced by something else: curiosity, respect, and for some, even friendship. Counselor Ven watched this transformation with wonder. He had lived for over 300 years and had seen many changes in the galaxy, but nothing like this. Nothing like the impact these strange creatures from a Deathworld were having on the ancient order of things. After the session ended, he approached Captain Chen. "You handled that well," he said, "but I suspect you knew how it would go before you started speaking." Sarah smiled. "Humans have learned a few things about diplomacy over the centuries. The most important lesson is this: people fear what they do not understand, but people also admire strength that is used wisely. We just had to show them who we really are." "And who are you really?" Ven asked. Sarah thought for a moment. "We are survivors," she said. "We are builders. We are people who refuse to give up no matter how hard things get. But most importantly, we are people who believe that everyone deserves a chance to survive and thrive. Not just humans, everyone." Ven nodded slowly. "I think I am beginning to understand why your species survived your Deathworld. It is not just your physical strength or your clever technology. It is something else, something in your spirit." "My grandmother used to call it stubborn hope," Sarah said. "The belief that things can get better, combined with the refusal to accept anything less. It is what drove us to leave our caves and explore our world. It is what drove us to reach for the stars. And it is what will drive us to make this galaxy a better place for everyone." She looked out the great window of the council chamber at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, humans were building new homes on hostile worlds. They were forming new friendships with alien species. They were pushing the boundaries of what was possible. And they were just getting started. 10 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. In that time, humans had become an important part of galactic civilization. Their colonies dotted dozens of worlds. Their ships traveled every trade route. Their ideas and innovations had spread to nearly every corner of known space. But not everyone was happy about this change. Deep in the outer regions of the galaxy, far from council patrols and busy trade routes, a fleet was gathering. The ships belonged to the Vorn Collective, the species that had always been most suspicious of human expansion. Ambassador Kreth had been replaced by a new leader, a military commander named Thrax. Thrax believed that the galaxy had made a terrible mistake by welcoming humans. He saw their rapid expansion as a threat that had to be stopped. For years, he had secretly built his fleet and gathered his forces. Now he was ready to act. His plan was simple: strike fast, strike hard, and destroy the human colonies before they could grow any stronger. The council would protest, of course, but by the time they responded, the humans would be too weak to resist. The galaxy would be saved from their dangerous influence. Thrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his fleet assemble. Over 500 warships, the largest military force the Vorn had ever gathered. Against this power, the scattered human colonies would fall quickly. "Commander," his second officer reported, "all ships are in position. We are ready to begin the attack on the human colony of New Eden." Thrax showed his sharp teeth in a predator's smile. "Excellent. New Eden is their largest colony outside their home system. When it falls, the humans will understand that they are not as powerful as they believe." He gave the order, and the fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. Hours later, they emerged from their jump near New Eden. Thrax expected to see a peaceful colony world, undefended and unprepared for war. Instead, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The humans were waiting for them. A human fleet hung in space between the Vorn and New Eden. It was smaller than the Vorn force, perhaps 200 ships, but something about them seemed different, dangerous, ready. A communication request came through. Thrax accepted it reluctantly. A human face appeared on his screen. It was an older woman with gray hair and hard eyes. She wore a military uniform covered in medals and insignia. "This is Admiral Patricia Stone of the United Human Coalition Defense Force," she said. "You have entered human space with hostile intent. I am giving you one chance to turn around and leave peacefully. I suggest you take it." Thrax laughed. "One chance, human. I have 500 ships. You have 200. The mathematics are simple. Surrender your colony and I will allow your people to evacuate. Resist and they will all die." Admiral Stone did not seem impressed. "Commander, I must tell you something important. We knew you were coming. We have known about your fleet for over a year. Did you really think you could build such a force in secret? We have eyes and ears everywhere." Thrax felt a chill run through him. "You are bluffing." "I am not. We also know your battle plans, your ship capabilities, and your supply lines. We have been preparing for this moment since you first started gathering your fleet." She leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping. "We are from a Deathworld, Commander. Survival is what we do best, and the first rule of survival is this: always know where the danger is coming from." Thrax tried to maintain his confidence. "Knowledge means nothing against superior numbers. Attack pattern formation. All ships engage." The Vorn fleet began to move forward. The human ships did not retreat. Instead, they advanced to meet the attackers. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries. The human ships were faster than the Vorn had expected. They dodged and weaved through the enemy formation, striking at weak points with deadly precision. Their weapons seemed to target exactly the right systems on the Vorn ships, disabling them without destroying them. But the most surprising thing was how the humans fought together. Every ship seemed to know exactly where every other ship would be. They coordinated perfectly, covering each other's weaknesses and combining their strengths. It was like watching a single organism with 200 parts instead of 200 separate ships. The Vorn, by contrast, fought as individuals. Their larger numbers meant nothing when they could not concentrate their fire. Human ships would appear from unexpected angles, strike quickly, and disappear before the Vorn could respond. Within an hour, it was clear that the battle was lost. Over half the Vorn fleet had been disabled. Not destroyed, Thrax noted with confusion. Just disabled. Their weapons were gone, their engines crippled, but their life support systems were untouched. The humans were winning, but they were not trying to kill. "Commander," his officer said urgently, "our fleet is broken. We must retreat." Thrax stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His 500 ships had been defeated by 200, and the humans had not even seemed to try very hard. The communication screen lit up again. Admiral Stone's face appeared. "Your fleet is disabled, Commander. Your offensive has failed, but I want you to notice something. We have not destroyed any of your ships. We have not killed any of your people. We could have, but we chose not to." Thrax said nothing. He did not know what to say. "We are going to let you go," Stone continued. "You will take your fleet back to Vorn space. You will tell your government what happened here, and you will deliver a message from the United Human Coalition." She paused, making sure he was listening. "The message is this. We do not want war. We never wanted war. We just want to live, to grow, to explore. But if anyone attacks us, we will defend ourselves, and we will win. Not because we are more cruel or more ruthless than you, but because we are survivors. We have been fighting for our lives since the first human walked upright on Earth. Fighting is in our blood, but so is mercy." Her expression softened slightly. "Go home, Commander. Tell your people that the humans are not their enemies. Tell them that we would rather be their friends. And tell them that if they ever need help, if disaster strikes or danger threatens, we will come. Not because we have to, but because that is who we are." The communication ended. Thrax watched as the human ships pulled back, allowing the disabled Vorn vessels to slowly limp toward the edge of the system. He had come to destroy the humans. Instead, they had destroyed his beliefs about them. They had shown him something he had never expected to see from a Deathworld species. They had shown him mercy. News of the Battle of New Eden spread across the galaxy within days. Every species heard how the humans had defeated a much larger force. But more importantly, they heard how the humans had chosen not to destroy their defeated enemies. This was not normal behavior for a victorious military. In galactic history, winners usually destroyed losers. That was how power worked. That was how security was maintained. The humans had done something different, something that made every species stop and think. Counselor Venn called another emergency session of the Galactic Council. This time, the chamber was even more crowded than usual. Representatives from species that rarely attended had come to witness this discussion. Commander Thrax was present, brought in under guard but treated with respect. He had agreed to tell the council exactly what had happened and what he had learned. "I was wrong about the humans," Thrax admitted, his voice quiet but clear. "I saw them as dangerous predators who had to be stopped. I did not see them as they truly are." "And what are they, Commander?" Venn asked. Thrax was silent for a moment, searching for the right words. "They are protectors," he said finally. "They have the power to destroy, but they choose to protect instead. Their Deathworld did not make them monsters. It made them guardians." Captain Sarah Chen stood to speak. She was older now, with streaks of gray in her dark hair, but her voice was as strong as ever. "What Commander Thrax said is true, but incomplete," she said. "We are not protectors because we are naturally good or naturally kind. We are protectors because we have learned, through millions of years of hard experience, that cooperation is stronger than conflict, that helping others survive helps us survive too." She looked around the chamber at the assembled species. "Every one of you comes from a world gentler than ours. You evolved in environments that allowed you to be peaceful, to be careful, to avoid danger. This is not weakness. It is wisdom. Why fight when you do not have to?" Her expression grew serious. "But we did have to fight. Every day, every hour, our world tried to kill us. We could not afford to be peaceful. We had to be strong. We had to be stubborn. We had to refuse to give up even when giving up would be so much easier." She paused, letting her words sink in. This made us capable of terrible violence. Our history is full of wars and atrocities. We are not proud of this. But it also made us capable of incredible determination. When we decide to do something, we do not stop until it is done. When we commit to a cause, we commit completely. Sarah stepped into the center of the chamber, turning slowly to address everyone present. We have decided that our cause is not conquest. It is not domination. Our cause is survival. Not just human survival, but the survival of everyone, every species, every world, every person who looks up at the stars and dreams of a better future. She raised her voice, filling the great hall with her words. We are from a death world. Death is where we came from, but life is what we fight for. And we will keep fighting for it for all of you, for as long as humans exist. The chamber was completely silent. Then slowly, the Kelloran representative began to make a sound. It was their species' form of applause, a soft humming that grew louder and louder. Other species joined in with their own forms of approval. Soon, the entire chamber was filled with noise. Counselor Vin let the moment continue for a long time before calling for order. When the chamber finally quieted, he spoke. The Galactic Council has witnessed something remarkable today. We have seen a species that could choose to dominate instead choose to protect. We have seen strength used not for conquest but for mercy. He looked at the human delegation with new understanding in his eyes. I propose that humanity be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, not provisional membership, not conditional membership, full membership with all rights and responsibilities. The vote was not even close. Species after species voted in favor. Even the Vorn representative, after a long pause, added his vote to the majority. Humanity had proven itself, not through conquest or intimidation but through choice. The choice to help rather than harm, the choice to protect rather than destroy, the choice to build rather than break. As Sarah Chen accepted the Council's declaration of full membership, she felt tears forming in her eyes. Not tears of triumph, but tears of hope. Humanity had come so far from the frightened creatures huddling in caves on a hostile world, and yet they had remained true to what made them human. The stubborn hope her grandmother had talked about, the refusal to give up, the determination to make things better. These traits had helped humans survive their death world. Now they would help humanity take its place among the stars, not as conquerors, not as threats, but as partners, protectors, and friends. The galaxy had been afraid of what humans might become. Now it was beginning to understand what humans had always been. Survivors who chose to help others survive too. That night, celebrations erupted on every human world. On Earth, people danced in the streets of cities that had weathered earthquakes, floods, and storms. On Mars, colonists raised glasses of recycled water in toast after toast. On New Eden, the people who had almost been attacked held festivals of thanksgiving. But perhaps the most meaningful celebration happened on Kelloran Prime. The planet was still recovering from the earthquake that had nearly destroyed it 10 years earlier. Humans and Kelloran worked side by side every day, rebuilding cities and healing wounds. In the main square of the rebuilt capital city, a statue had been erected. It showed a human and a Kelloran standing together, facing outward toward the stars. The inscription at the base was simple. From death, life. From fear, friendship. From different worlds, one future. Admiral Patricia Stone, now retired from active duty, stood before the statue with her Kelloran friend Vass. They had worked together for years, becoming close companions despite their different species. "Do you ever wonder," Vass asked, "what would have happened if your species had not come from a death world, if you had evolved on a gentle world like mine?" Stone thought about the question. "I think we would have been different," she admitted. "Probably more peaceful, maybe more careful, but I also think we would have been weaker, less able to handle the challenges the galaxy throws at us." She looked up at the statue, at the human figure reaching toward the stars. Our world tried to kill us for millions of years. It failed. And in the trying, it made us into something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that could survive anything. A species that refused to give up. A species that found hope in the darkest places. Vast nodded slowly, and a species that shares that hope with others. Stone smiled. That most of all. What good is survival if you survive alone? What good is strength if you only use it for yourself? The whole point of being strong is so you can help those who need it. Around them, Kelloran and humans continued their work, rebuilding a world that nature had tried to destroy. They worked together as equals, sharing their different strengths and covering each other's weaknesses. This, Stone realized, was what humanity had always been meant for. Not to conquer the galaxy, not to dominate other species, but to stand with them against whatever challenges the universe might bring. To be survivors together. To thrive anywhere, successfully. Far above Kelloran Prime, the stars continued their eternal dance. New human ships launched toward distant worlds, carrying colonists ready to face whatever dangers awaited them. On council worlds, human diplomats worked to build understanding between species. In laboratories across the galaxy, human scientists collaborated with alien researchers to solve problems that had defeated everyone else. The galaxy was changing, and at the heart of that change was a simple truth that humans had learned on their deathworld of Earth. Life was precious, life was fragile, life was worth fighting for. And humans would never, ever stop fighting for it. Not for themselves alone, but for everyone who shared this vast and beautiful universe with them. This was the legacy of the Deathworld. This was the gift that Earth had given its children. Not just the strength to survive, but the wisdom to know what survival was truly for. To help others survive too. To build a future where everyone could thrive. To turn death into life, and fear into hope, and strangers into friends. This was what it meant to be human. And the galaxy was just beginning to understand.